엄마의 꿈이 사라졌다고 생각했는데 너를 통해 이루어지는 걸 보면서 참 많이 행복했단다. 엄마는 내가 엄마 곁에 있다는 사실 하나만으로도 충분히 행복하단다. 너도 이제는 어엿한 두 아이의 엄마가 되었잖니? 혹여 어려움을 겪더라도 부모가 갖는 행복한 마음이 변하지 않았으면 좋겠어. 엄마는 내가 무척 자랑스럽다.
Sacrifice is more than just giving something up. It's about enriching the lives of the people that you love by changing how you perceive the world, yourself, and the people around you. And once I became a mom, that really gave me a newfound appreciation for everything my mom went through to raise me. Her whole life, she was told that her disability would make her a burden to everybody around her, but she refused to let that define her. And now that I'm an adult, I'm able to see her as someone who's far more than just my mom. I've always wanted to do something really special for my mom, and I am in a very privileged position now in my life and career where I can do that. This project is my way of showing my endless gratitude and appreciation for everything she's done to carve out a path for herself in this world. My mom was the youngest of 8 kids, 4 boys, 4 girls. She grew up on a farm in a rural area of Korea, and at 3 years old, she contracted a rare, severe form of polio, which left her paralyzed in both legs. She faced a lot of prejudice and discrimination as someone who was handicapped, and given that she grew up in Korea in the 1950s, she had a very difficult childhood. Growing up, people around her would tell her, oh, you're forever gonna be a burden on your family. First, it's gonna be your parents, and then it's gonna be your siblings. All you're ever gonna amount to is a burden.
What's going through your mind?
Growing up, I always just saw her as someone who is like a really strong person. You would never know that she has all these like hurts and traumas.
But I think that shaped like the decisions that she made in her life and how she decided to live her life. She studied her butt off, went to a great college. She did move to Seoul for college, and at that time that was super unusual, especially for someone from the countryside and who had a disability. But my mom saw higher education as her path to break people's expectations of what handicapped people and what she specifically could accomplish. She met my dad through a mutual artist friend who owned a studio. According to them, it was love at first sight, but very one-sided. My dad said that he walked into the atelier, saw my mom sitting at the easel painting, and apparently she was like glowing and beautiful, and he just fell super hard. They did get married, and then eventually the company where my dad worked at the time, they offered him the opportunity to transfer abroad, and they chose the States because they wanted to provide better educational opportunities for myself and my little brother that they thought that we wouldn't be able to have elsewhere. So even though they didn't speak the language, they didn't know anybody here, they were unfamiliar with the food and the culture, they made that decision because they wanted to put us first. And that's really been an ongoing theme that's run through our entire lives. You know, with the hindsight that I have now, like I can see just how much they try to give me a very protected and carefree childhood where I could just focus on being a kid. I was shielded from adult problems, so I didn't have to worry about that. Becoming a parent myself really helped round out the view I have of my parents. I'm able to see a lot more and understand a lot more and appreciate a lot more. You know, I have all these memories of how they scrapped and saved so that, you know, they can get me in violin, or how they willingly gave up their time for me without ever saving any for themselves. Honestly, I still can't wrap my head around like how she was able to raise us physically, given her mobility limitations. Like when she was younger, she was on arm crutches and like aluminum full leg braces. And I just can't figure out like how she was able to hold a baby and get around at the same time. And just like knowing and remembering like how tired and how draining it was in the immediate postpartum period. I have no idea how she handled that. While I was growing up, I noticed that both of my parents really love ocean views, which makes sense given that they grew up on the Korean Peninsula. And I think for my mom in particular, that openness and kind of merging of sky and sea helps give her a feeling of freedom when she's so earthbound. So one of the reasons why we chose this property in particular was because it has this very rare, completely unobstructed view to the ocean, while also being in a really charming and convenient community. So now that my mom is older, she uses a wheelchair and a walker combo most of the time. So we need to make sure that this home accommodates her lifestyle. So to do this when designing a home, you have to keep in mind things like heights of surfaces, turning radius and circumference for the wheelchair to get around, spaces underneath cabinetry and vanities, and overall layout and flow considerations. Also, we need to consider that she'll be sharing the space with my father, who's able-bodied, so the space has to be able to support the synergy between the two. Growing up, a recurring theme with my mom has been she's always had to work around her environments. With this house, what we want to do is build something that is customized to her. So it's not about making do or making it work. I want this home to be really a place where they are kind of rediscovering who they are, aside from their roles as mom and dad, and learning to enjoy their lives now that they're kind of at this stage where they don't have to worry about us anymore. And I think that's really the best way to show my parents the same love that they've always shown me.